Before you scroll, answer this honestly. What would you do if telling the truth could cost you your job, your name, and the safety of your child? At 2:11 a.m., a heart monitor screamed inside a regional hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. Not the soft warning kind. The kind that cuts through your chest and forces a decision. A middle-aged man named Raymond Cole lay on a narrow bed, chest rising unevenly, fingers clutching at air like he was reaching for something already gone. Nurse Alana Brooks stood close enough to feel the heat from his skin. Too close for comfort, too close for rules. Her body moved before her mind caught up, hands steady, breath shallow, eyes locked on numbers that refused to behave. She smelled antiseptic and sweat. Fear had a smell too. She knew it well. The dosage on the screen didn't match the chart. It wasn't a typo. It wasn't a slip. It was clean, deliberate, and the doctor who signed off on it never looked her in the eye. Raymond's fingers wrapped around her wrist. The grip was weak but intentional. Skin on skin. A grounding pull that made her heart jump when it shouldn't have. In that second, the room shrank. Just the two of them. His breath against her knuckles. Her pulse racing under his thumb. She could call it out. Or she could pretend she didn't see it. Upstairs, people in suits slept peacefully. Down here, alarms told the truth. Alana had already been warned once for asking too many questions. One more mark and her license would be gone. No job meant no rent. No rent meant her child sleeping in someone else's living room. The monitor spiked again. If you've ever felt trapped between doing what's right and doing what keeps your life standing, tap the like button. You're going to feel this one. Alana made a choice that would follow her for the rest of her life. She adjusted the dose quietly. No note, no witness, and the moment she did, she knew something worse than fear had just entered the room. 2 days earlier, Alana Brooks was just another nurse trying to survive. She worked back-to-back shifts, drank bad coffee, and counted hours the way other people counted blessings. Her life ran on schedules and alarms. Wake up early, drop her child off, work, pick up, repeat. Dreams were a luxury she stopped budgeting for years ago. Raymond Cole arrived during a late afternoon intake. A truck driver, broad shoulders, tired eyes. The kind of man who joked when he was nervous and smiled even when it hurt. When she checked his vitals, he made a comment about her calm hands. She brushed it off, but something stayed with her. Not desire, not hope, awareness. There was a quiet pull between them that made no sense in a place built to strip people of softness. When she leaned in to listen to his lungs, she noticed how carefully he held still, like he didn't want to make her job harder. That kind of thoughtfulness could sneak up on you. Later that night, she noticed the first crack. A consent form pushed across the bed too fast. A doctor talking in numbers instead of words. Raymond asking questions that never got answered straight. Alana filed it away like she always did. Survival meant picking your battles. But then she overheard something she wasn't meant to hear. Two doctors arguing behind a supply door. Low voices, frustrated tones, words about bed turnover, about keeping costs down, about how some cases weren't worth extra time. Alana stood frozen, fingers pressed into the cold metal of the cart. Her chest tightened. Hospitals weren't supposed to talk like that. People weren't supposed to sound so casual about risk. If you've ever ignored a warning sign because you needed things to stay normal, you're not alone. Comment if you've been there. She walked back to her station and did her job. Smiled, logged notes, pretended her hands weren't shaking. She didn't know yet that the line had already been crossed. Only that something felt off. And once you feel that, there's no going back. Alana stayed late on purpose. The ward quieted after midnight. Machines hummed, keyboards clicked. The building felt hollow, like it was holding its breath. She pulled Raymond's chart again, then another, and another. Patterns don't announce themselves. They whisper. The numbers lined up too neatly. Same medication, same timing, same outcomes. She leaned closer to the screen, shoulders tight, mind racing. The more she focused, the more aware she became of her own body. Her pulse, the heat in her face, the way stress sharpened everything. She thought about Raymond's hand on her wrist earlier. The trust in that grip. The unspoken question behind it. A senior nurse passed by and slowed. Not enough to stop, just enough to warn her with a look. Later, the warning came quietly. No threats, no anger, just a tired voice telling her this wasn't her fight. That scared her more than shouting ever could. Alana copied times into a small notebook. Not official, not safe. Her heart beat harder with every line she wrote. She knew what this looked like. She knew how it ended for people like her. If you've ever found proof you wish you hadn't found, tell me in the comments. The kind that doesn't let you sleep. She checked the last entry and froze. A medication order had been logged under her name. An order she never made. Someone had already started setting the stage. She closed the chart slowly, feeling the weight settle in her chest. This wasn't about mistakes. It was about control, and she was standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. The medical director's office sat above the floor like a watchtower. Glass walls, clean desk, no clutter, everything designed to remind you who held power. Alana stood across from him, posture straight, hands folded to hide the tremble. He spoke calmly, almost kindly. He didn't deny anything. Instead, he talked about pressure, about budgets, about difficult decisions. His eyes stayed on her face, tracking every reaction. It felt intimate in the worst way, like he could see under her skin. He mentioned her probation without raising his voice, mentioned her child without asking questions, laid out her future in simple terms. Silence meant stability. Cooperation meant protection. He slid a document across the desk. Revised notes, cleaned records, her name already typed at the bottom. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Alana became aware of her breathing, the tight pull in her stomach, the way fear can feel almost electric. If you've ever been offered safety at the cost of your integrity, tap the like button. This is where most people stop. She didn't sign. The calm in his face faded just a little, enough to tell her everything she needed to know. As she walked out, she understood something clearly for the first time. This wasn't about one patient. It was about a system that expected obedience, and it had just marked her as a problem. Raymond crashed just before dawn. Alana wasn't scheduled, but she was there. She always was. She moved fast, hands confident, body leaning close as alarms filled the room. Sweat dampened her collar. Her focus narrowed to breath, pulse, pressure. She adjusted leads and felt his fingers brush her forearm. Not grabbing this time, searching. There was a closeness that had nothing to do with attraction and everything to do with trust. His breathing slowed when she spoke softly. Her voice anchored him. She felt it in her chest, deep and heavy. As the room settled, Raymond looked at her with a clarity that cut through the medication. His lips moved. She leaned closer, heart pounding, aware of how little space separated them. He asked if they were lying. That was the moment the choice stopped being theoretical. If you've ever had someone look at you and ask for the truth when lying would be easier, comment below. Those moments change you. Later, security footage showed her entering the medication room alone. Later still, emails began moving without her knowledge. But in that room, under the steady glow of the monitors, Alana understood something simple and dangerous. She could walk away, or she could stay and burn everything down. And once you see the truth that clearly, there is no neutral ground. Understood. The next 2 days felt longer than the rest of Alana's life combined. Time didn't move in hours anymore. It moved in glances, in silence, in what wasn't written down. Charts changed without notice. Notes disappeared. Orders appeared with no voice attached to them. Raymond drifted in and out, his breathing uneven, his eyes searching the room every time he woke. When Alana stepped close, his shoulders relaxed. When she left, his body tightened again. That connection scared her more than the paperwork ever could. She wasn't supposed to be there. Not officially, but she showed up anyway. Each time she stood by his bed, their closeness felt heavier. Not romantic, not harmless, intimate in the way shared danger always is. When she leaned in to check his line, her arm brushed his chest. She didn't pull away, neither did he. Outside the room, whispers followed her. If you've ever felt watched the moment you stop playing along, you know that pressure. The kind that doesn't need words. Alana copied more information, screenshots, times, codes. She sent nothing yet. Every move felt like stepping closer to a drop she couldn't see. On the second night, Raymond squeezed her hand during the sudden spike. Harder than before, his eyes stayed locked on hers. He trusted her, fully, without knowing what it would cost her. That trust made the clock louder. A message popped up on her phone just before sunrise. Mandatory review. Immediate. 48 hours after she first noticed the numbers, the system pushed back. And it didn't push gently. They walked her out in front of everyone. No shouting, no scene, just badges deactivated and quiet eyes watching from behind desks. The word, protocol, was used like a weapon. Someone handed her a folder she didn't open. The worst part wasn't the exit. It was the silence that followed. Her phone stopped buzzing. Messages went unanswered. Doors that used to open for her stayed closed. At home, the walls felt tighter. The air felt wrong. She thought about Raymond more than she should have. About the way his hand searched for hers. About how unfinished everything felt. That pull didn't fade. It sharpened. If you've ever been pushed out for refusing to play your role, drop a comment. Being erased hurts more than being attacked. On the third night, her phone rang. It wasn't a hospital number. Raymond's voice sounded thin, but steady. He told her they'd moved him without warning. He told her things felt worse, not better. He told her people stopped answering questions when he asked too much. And then he said her name like it mattered. Alana sat on the edge of her bed, gripping the phone, chest tight. She had nothing left to lose now. No job, no protection. What she still had was the truth. And that made her dangerous. They met late, quietly. Not inside the system, not on anyone's schedule. Alana slipped into Raymond's room after visiting hours, heart racing, senses sharp. Every sound felt too loud. He looked smaller, tired, but his eyes were clear. They talked in low voices. Words pressed close between them. He told her what he'd overheard during transport. Phrases about reducing stays, about acceptable outcomes, about numbers that mattered more than names. As he spoke, Alana leaned closer without realizing it. Their knees almost touched. The space between them felt charged, fragile. His hand hovered near hers on the blanket, not touching, waiting. This wasn't comfort, it was confession. If you've ever shared a truth knowing it might change everything, you understand that tension. The kind that pulls people together even as it threatens to tear them apart. He stopped mid-sentence when his monitor dipped. Alana reached for him without thinking. Her fingers wrapped around his wrist. Warm, real, grounding. The alarm stopped. Their eyes stayed locked. They both knew something important had just been crossed. Not a line, a bond. And bonds like that don't break quietly. The hospital moved fast. Emails spread. Words like unreliable and unauthorized followed Alana's name. An internal review became an accusation. Her access was blocked. Her notes dismissed. Raymond asked for her directly. They said no. That denial hit harder than the escort ever did. If you've ever watched Power rewrite the story while you stood outside it, you know how small it makes you feel. Then an email arrived from a stranger. No greeting, no name, just files attached, partial records, enough to prove she wasn't alone. Her hands shook as she opened them. This wasn't rescue, it was risk. Someone inside had cracked. She saved everything. Twice. Across town, Raymond waited. Across the city, Alana prepared. Neither of them slept, and both of them knew the next move would decide everything. Alana chose a place no one would expect. A library. Quiet. Ordinary. She sat at a public computer with a hood pulled low, heart pounding like she was doing something illegal. In a way, she was. Each file upload felt like exposure. Like standing naked in a room full of strangers. She wiped her hands on her jeans and kept going. This wasn't revenge, it was release. The data painted a clear picture. Not just one hospital, not just one patient, a pattern tied to cost-saving decisions that never reached the people on the beds. If you've ever sent something into the world knowing you couldn't pull it back, you understand that fear. When the final file finished uploading, her phone rang. Unknown number. She didn't answer. Outside, life moved on like nothing was wrong. Inside, something had shifted. Quietly, permanently. The truth was loose now. And once that happens, it doesn't belong to anyone anymore. After the library upload, Alana Brooks stopped sleeping like a normal person. She slept in pieces. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Every time her eyes closed, she saw a monitor line jumping. She heard the sound of a badge reader rejecting her like she didn't exist. She kept checking her phone, even when it stayed silent. Then the silence broke. A message came from a number she didn't know. No threat, no comfort, just a short warning that made her throat go dry. They were looking into it. Not, they, like friends. Not, they, like coworkers. The kind of, they, that showed up when rules stopped being polite. Alana didn't tell anyone. Not her sister, not her neighbor, not even the one person who would have listened without judging. Raymond Cole. She tried to keep distance, thinking it would keep him safe. But safety was already gone. The moment she hit upload, the story stopped being private. If you've ever tried to protect someone by shutting them out, you know how cruel that feels. Raymond left another voicemail. He didn't beg, he didn't cry. His voice was steady, but the strain underneath made it worse. Alana, I need to know you're still here. That one line cracked her harder than any accusation. She drove to the hospital parking lot and sat there without going in. Just watching the building, like staring at it long enough might force it to confess. She wanted to see Raymond. She wanted to feel his hand squeeze hers again. She hated how much she wanted that. Then another message came. This time from a hospital lawyer. They didn't ask her to come in. They told her to. And suddenly, the truth wasn't just dangerous. It was expensive. When the investigators arrived, the hospital changed its face. Smiles got sharper. Voices got softer. Meetings happened behind closed doors. Staff were told what to say, and more importantly, what not to say. Alana Brooks walked in with her shoulders back, even though her stomach felt like it was twisting. Raymond Cole was there too. Not in the room with the suits. In his bed, watching everything through half-open eyes, like he was trying to memorize the truth before someone edited it again. They questioned her for hours. They asked why she adjusted the dose, why she took notes, why she went outside the system. They asked it like she was the problem. She answered in plain words. No long speeches, no fancy lines. I saw something wrong, and I didn't want a man to die because someone wanted to save money. That sentence made the air shift. If you've ever told the truth in a room that wanted you to lie, comment, truth. Not because it sounds good, because it's hard. During a break, Alana walked down the hall and found Raymond awake. She stood by his bed, quiet. She didn't touch him at first. Then he reached out, slow, and took her fingers. That contact wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was real. Her chest tightened. Her breath caught. It felt too personal for a place like this. Too honest. A nurse walked by and stared. Alana didn't care. Raymond looked at her and whispered, "Don't stop." She leaned closer, close enough that her hair brushed his cheek. Not a kiss, not anything that could be called improper, but intimate in a way no policy could measure. Then a doctor stepped in and said Raymond was being transferred. no reason, no explanation. Alana's blood ran cold, because moving him now felt like the oldest trick in the world. The fallout didn't come like a thunderclap. It came like doors quietly closing. First, a few people resigned. Then a department head stepped aside. Then the hospital released a statement filled with legal words that didn't say much of anything. But the real change showed up in the way staff started avoiding certain names. In the way supervisors watched the floors with nervous eyes. In the way everyone suddenly remembered they had families to feed. Alana Brooks lost her job for good. They mailed her the final notice like she was a package they couldn't return. Raymond Cole got transferred to another facility outside the main network. His breathing got steadier. His color came back, slowly. Not because the system had mercy, but because the pressure had finally reached someone who didn't care about hospital politics. Alana visited him there. No security escort, no locked doors, just a simple room and the sound of a TV low in the background. Raymond looked better, but his eyes held something heavier now. Knowledge. He reached for her hand again, and this time she let him keep it. She sat close enough to feel his warmth. Close enough for their shoulders to touch. That touch did something to her she didn't want to admit. It wasn't just comfort, it was desire mixed with trust. The kind that grows when two people survive something together. If you've ever connected with someone through fear first, and only later realized it had turned into something deeper, you know how confusing that feels. Raymond said, "They tried to make you the bad guy." Alana swallowed. "They almost did." He squeezed her hand. "Not anymore." She looked down at their fingers locked together and realized the truth had changed more than policy. It had changed her, and it had tied her to Raymond in a way she didn't know how to undo. Recognition didn't feel like victory. It felt like exhaustion finally being allowed to breathe. A hearing was scheduled. Alana Brooks showed up in a plain outfit, hair pulled back, face calm. She spoke the same way she had from the start, straight, simple, and clear. Raymond Cole gave a statement too. Not dramatic, not loud, just honest. He told them what he felt in his body. How quickly things turned when he asked questions. How he watched people change their tone the moment they thought nobody important was listening. The room didn't know what to do with that kind of truth. Afterward, outside the building, cameras waited. Questions flew. Alana didn't answer most of them. But she did say one thing. "I did my job. I protected a patient." That line traveled farther than she expected. If you've ever been punished for doing the right thing, and later watched people pretend they supported you all along, you know how bitter that can taste. That night, she met Raymond again. He was walking slowly now, no machines dragging behind him. Just a man with scars that couldn't be seen. They stood near a small bench outside the rehab facility. Cold air, street noise, regular life moving around them. Raymond looked at her, then down, then back up. "What happens to you now?" Alana tried to joke. It didn't land. He stepped closer, not pushing, not taking, just offering. The space between them felt full. Their history sat there with them, heavy and alive. Alana wanted to kiss him. She wanted to feel something warm that wasn't fear. She hated that she wanted it. Raymond lifted his hand and brushed her cheek with his thumb. Slow, careful, her breath caught like she'd been waiting for it. Then she leaned in and let their lips meet. Not rushed, not messy, quiet, certain. And for the first time, the intimacy wasn't tied to crisis. It was tied to choice. Months later, Alana Brooks walked past the hospital without going inside. The building looked the same from the street. Concrete, windows, people rushing in and out with coffee cups, pretending the place only held healing. But Alana was different. She wasn't invisible anymore. Raymond Cole was beside her, hands in his jacket pockets, moving at an easy pace. Healthier, stronger, alive in a way that still felt unreal. They didn't talk much at first. They didn't need to. Some stories leave you with a silence you have to learn how to carry. They stopped at a corner and watched cars pass. Normal life, everyday noise, the kind of peace that used to feel impossible. Raymond turned to her. "You ever regret it?" Alana didn't answer right away. She thought about her job, her lost income, the nights she cried quietly so her child wouldn't hear, the fear that followed her everywhere. Then she thought about that moment at 2:11 a.m. The monitor screaming, the wrong numbers, the wrong numbers. Raymond's hand grabbing her wrist like he was asking her to stay human. She looked at Raymond and said, "No, not loud, not for anyone else, just the truth." He nodded like he believed her. He reached for her hand and held it the same way he had in that hospital bed, steady, grounding, real. But now there was something new in it. Not panic, not desperation, desire, tenderness, a future that wasn't built on secrecy. If this story hit you, hit the like button. Subscribe for more true inspired stories that don't just entertain, you feel them. And in the comments, tell me this. If you were Alana, would you have stayed quiet, or would you have risked everything? Alana squeezed Raymond's hand once and kept walking. She didn't win by being perfect. She won by refusing to be erased. And that kind of truth doesn't fade. It becomes undeniable.